Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being with us today. This is the second session of the ProServeIT Academy for Cybersecurity. We're going to be talking about one of the most extremely important aspects in security today, which is email security, and how easy it is for hackers to compromise your email in today's world. My name is George Obusanda. I'm a principal consultant and the security practice lead here at ProServeIT, and I'll be your instructor today. As for the agenda, we're going to give you a quick introduction of what email security is and why it matters in today's world. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the key risks to email and key risks to your business related to email compromise, and if any of your users do get compromised. We'll then dive into a couple of common scenarios and the attack kill chain of an email breach. I will also highlight what hackers do in your email once you have been compromised. I'll then walk you through a demo of an attack and motives from a hacker's perspective. We'll go through some of the Microsoft 365 security solutions, specifically tied to email protection, and how you can reduce the email attacks with some of the recommendations that we'll be providing you with. ProServeIT does have some offers that may interest you, some of which could be complimentary, could be completely free for your organization. So stick around to hear about those and see if you can benefit from those as well. And last but not least, you'll go through a Q&A session to answer any questions that you might have. All right, so what is email security? A general description of it could be practices, tools, technologies, processes, and training designed to protect email communication from threats. It's not just about the tools or technologies that you implement. Email security is not complete without all these put together. Now, you can invest millions of dollars in tools for email security, but that's solely you're relying on the technology doing its job when that's not going to be the case every single time. Yes, technology will block some of the attacks, but it's not a bulletproof protection mechanisms. Attacks are getting more sophisticated with time, and you as an organization are responsible to make sure that you are keeping up with the latest security threats, security trends, and you are updating your policies on a regular basis. And again, not just your technical policies, but also your processes internally, right? So if somebody is, requesting for you to pay an invoice, if it's just done via email, then it can easily be a fraudulent email. You need a specific process to confirm with the vendor that, yep, this is me requesting the invoice and this is me making those changes, right? We'll go a little bit through more of those details throughout the webinar today. But just wanted to highlight what is email security specifically. Again, don't just rely on technology. It's everything in between as well. Now, why does it matter? Why is email security so important? First and foremost, it is the most widely used communication platform in professional settings today. Professional or even personal settings today. So, communications between one business and the other, obviously now in this modern age, we use email. That's the main method of communication, which is why it matters to protect your email platform as well. It's also the foundation that builds trust between organizations. So if I'm sending somebody an email, they know this came from George at ProServeIT.com. They realize that this is a trusted source. There's a built-in trust, native trust that you already inherit just by knowing that I received an email from a reputable source, from somebody that I know. Why would it be risky to open up this email or click on a link or download what they're telling me to download? So there's a trust that was built between, company A and company B through email as you communicate together. You blindly trust the person, right? Because you've communicated with them before and you know that, this is somebody that I know. I've communicated with them many times before. It's safe to do whatever they're asking me to do. Those reasons are primarily the reasons why it is a primary target for cyber attacks. You use email on a regular basis. It's commonly used between businesses. Businesses have money. Hackers want your money. So they eventually attack your email as a primary method. Now, what are some key risks to email? I just want to highlight some, again, this list is not extensive by any means, but just wanted to highlight some of the key risks related to your email. First and foremost, credential phishing. Meaning that somebody's going to send you a link that directs you to a fake login page, and you eventually get compromised. You type in your credentials, it looks extremely well done, extremely real. You fall for it, you provide the hacker with your credentials. So that's called credential phishing. The next key risk is business email compromise. So that's when, let's say, somebody's impersonated, maybe somebody on the executive level is impersonated, or maybe a supplier is impersonated for the simple cause of diverting payments. Instead of receiving this payment for the services that you're providing, I'm going to monitor what you do, and then I'm going to hit you with my own invoice so you can pay me instead. Ransomware delivery. So somebody wants to send you some sort of macro-enabled file. And for those of you that don't know, macros are code embedded within, let's say, an Office file, Excel. As an example, once you open up the Excel file, you get a little bar at the very top of the document that says, enable content. Click here to enable content. And that's all it takes for the code within the Excel file to execute on your computer, to run on your computer, and infect your device with ransomware. And that ransomware, again, for those of you that don't know, encrypts your files, encrypts your content, your pictures, your documents, everything on your computer. And then the hackers demand ransom in the form of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency to provide you with your data back. And there's no reason to believe that they will give you your data back. So it's either they get the money and they run away, or in certain cases, they will give you a decryption key to decrypt your data. Dark web exposure. So it could be from leaked credentials from past breaches. So somebody uses their corporate account, let's say on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has gotten hacked before, and credentials were stolen from LinkedIn. What are the chances that you are using the same password within your corporate world because it is the same account? Not a lot of users use different passwords across different accounts. A lot of them use just a single password because it's easy to remember. So what if your account was found on the dark web, and now hackers are using those credentials in order to break into your email as well? The next one is malware distribution, not to be confused with ransomware delivery, even though they're part of the same family. But think of a malware like a keylogger. So somebody sends you a malicious file, it executes on your endpoint, and now every keystroke you type on your keyboard is registered and then sent to the hacker as well. So if you're logging in, that could be a potential way that they steal your credentials. If you're typing, some top secret information on your device, hackers will also have that information. Other types of malware can include Trojans or spyware, some sort of tool that steals information off your endpoint and sends it to the hacker as well. There's also spoofing attacks, where somebody impersonates your domain. So somebody sends an email impersonating domainx.com, and it lands in the user's inbox, in the recipient's inbox. Those are spoofing attacks. And if you don't have your proper email protection in place, hackers could potentially spoof your domain and impersonate your users. And whoever's the recipient of a spoofing attack could fall for it and eventually do what the person is asking them to do as well. Spam attacks. Now, a lot of people think spam is not really that malicious unless it's done correctly. So one thing that I want to highlight around spam attacks is that obviously it's unsolicited emails coming to your mailbox, but think of this scenario, and this happens quite commonly. If your account is in the process of getting compromised, let's say you go into a specific service, whatever application that is, and then you started to request, hey, reset my password. I need to reset my password. You're probably going to get an email from that service saying, hey, a password reset was initiated. This was not you. Click on this link because your account may be compromised. So something that hackers do is they register your email address with a whole bunch of different services to send you spam. Imagine thousands of emails coming in at the same time. And within those thousands of emails, there's going to be a couple of those requesting to reset your password, whether it's for your banking details, whether it's for your corporate account, third-party application, whatever the case may be. But that spam attack, because you're bombarded with thousands and thousands of emails all at the same time, you're just going to think, hey, something's wrong with that email. Somebody's messing with me. Let me just select all and delete. Not knowing that in between those thousands of emails, there's legitimate password reset attacks. So hackers are trying to break into your environment and trying to divert you away from the actual plan. And last but not least is data leakage. Obviously, everybody deals with sensitive information. That sensitive information lives somewhere. Could be SharePoint, could be OneDrive, could be within your emails. Since we're talking about emails today in email security, a lot of passwords are stored in email. Somebody sends you an email, hey, this is your password, or this is my password, or this is the password to this service, which we obviously don't recommend, but it obviously can lead into unauthorized access to specific sensitive information, whether it's proprietary information or whether it's passwords, something specific to your organization. All that can be extracted through your email as well. Now, what are some risks to the business related to email compromise? First and foremost, data breaches. Obviously, you've compromised the emails, you've compromised the integrity of your environment, and we can search through emails once they've been compromised. So that's just considered a data breach. There's financial fraud, which we'll be looking at in just a little bit as part of our attack kill chain and a part of our demo. Hackers commonly do this a lot, and they found a lot of success in financial fraud by diverting payments to their own banking details compared to the actual service provider that provided you with whatever service they did. Reputational damage. I mean, that speaks for itself. If you've been compromised, your reputation's at risk as well. How many businesses have experienced some sort of breach and has been publicly exposed, which again, certain laws, rules, and regulations force you to explain and to inform whomever it is that you've been compromised and this is the information that was stolen. So there is going to be some sort of reputational damage. Now, how many clients have vendors that lost knowing that they've been hacked? Right. So if we take a look at the SolarWinds attack that happened in March of 2020, a lot of clients left SolarWinds because of that breach, because of that attack. The Kaseya attack that happened in July of 2021 as well. A lot of people left the company because, they got breached and it's due because of the organization, the clients or the vendor that they invested in. And a lot of organizations honestly changed vendors because they felt the pain of being hacked. They lost a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort. The reputation was damaged, right? So think of it as your servers are offline, your emails are offline. So now you're paying users, you're paying your employees to do work, but it's impossible to do work with your systems down. If you generate revenue from your website and your website's been hacked and it's down, there's no way for you to generate that revenue because that is your mainstream, right? So there could be a lot of effect of getting compromised related to your reputation, of course, but also from a financial perspective as well. Credential theft is a common one. Again, just stealing your credentials, and maybe those same credentials are used across many other systems. So it's not just your email that they gain access to, it's also other areas within your environment. Ransomware spread, we just talked about. So they use email as an entry point to spread ransomware and not just encrypt your device, but also encrypt other devices on your network as well. There's legal consequences, especially if you are an organization that has to abide by certain laws and regulations, some sort of regulatory body, and you don't meet those requirements, or maybe data was compromised related to sensitive information for your clients, as an example. You have to report that, and also there's going to be some sort of lawsuits involved as well. Supply chain attacks, where certain compromised accounts were leveraged to target other partners, other vendors. And then loss of intellectual property. Going back to the data security, data compromise, where certain information could live in your email, and that proprietary data can eventually be extracted by hackers as well. All right, so some common email compromise scenarios. I'm just going to walk you through quickly through a common steps to a mailbox breach, and then I'll talk about two different scenarios where scenarios where hackers compromise your email and then perform malicious activities within your mailbox. So the first step is obviously grabbing your password. And there's many ways to grab your password, whether it's through phishing, so you providing the hacker with your credentials, whether it's brute force attacks, where you are the hackers trying hundreds of passwords all within a short period of time, trying to break in. Password spray attacks, where hackers use one single password across everybody in the company, hoping that somebody does have that weak password as part of their credentials. leaked credentials from past breaches. You have been compromised in the past, whether it's a third-party application, whether it's your Microsoft account. A lot of that data ends up on the dark web. And hackers have access to the dark web. They can extract that information as well. And they're going to use those same passwords that have been compromised to try and attack you moving forward. And the last one I have here on the slide is credential stealing malware. So there's malware that, keyloggers that record every keystroke that you have on your keyboard can actually steal your credentials as well. So that's always the first step. They need your credentials. Now, the next step is once they have your credentials, they log into your mailbox. And depending on their motive, they either attack right away or they remain dormant to plan their attack until they're ready. So a lot of the breaches that we investigate here at ProServeIT, hackers attack right away. But again, if their motive is to redirect some sort of invoice, some sort of payment into their banking account, then they remain dormant and then they attack at a later stage. Once they're in your account, you provide them with their credentials, they're able to log in. One thing they do is they register their own device for MFA because, if they want to continue logging in, they don't want to perform the same attack over and over again and wait for the phishing to be successful. Even if users do have MFA, this is their opportunity to add their own device as an MFA method. So that way, when they log in again, they're able to fully authenticate because they have the authentication method to do so. And as they're logging in as well, they log in from different places across the globe to make sure that it's difficult for a security professional to either block a specific country, block a region, block their IP. They can constantly log in from different locations all over the world and to hide their tracks. They then create forwarding rules. So any email that comes in, again, if they want to remain dormant and monitor your activity, they create forwarding rules to say any email coming in, maybe with a keyword invoice or maybe with some top secret keyword that an organization deals with, or maybe it's all emails. Anything coming in, forward to hacker@gmail.com. And they also, when they are performing their attack, they create inbox rules to not just delete their emails, but to also move them into a location, different folder within your mailbox to hide their tracks. Because as an email comes through, you're probably going to get notified on your phone and it landed in your inbox. So what they do is they mark the email as read and they move it into another folder that nobody ever checks. And one of that is the RSS feeds folder. Another one is the conversation history folder. So it just depends on your profile. Emails will end up going because you will not get notified on your phone about them as they're coming through. The inbox rules are going to kick in, mark it as read, move it to the folder, nobody even notices a thing. And then they eventually delete their emails. That's when hackers perform their attack. So depending on the motive, they either send malicious emails to different partners, different vendors, different clients that you work with, trying to compromise them as well through you as a trusted source. They want to intercept the payment, so they remain dormant. They monitor the activities, who approves invoices, who sends out the payment details, et cetera, et cetera. They remain dormant until they monitor all that, and then they plan their attack. Or it's just to steal your sensitive information. Maybe you're in the food industry and you have a top secret recipe, and that's what they're after. They want to steal it. They want to sell it to your competitors. Different hackers have different motives, but at the end of the day, they all have the same thing in common, which is to cause damage to the organization. All right. So what we're going to go through today is called an adversary in the middle attack. For those of you that were with us in the previous webinar, this is also part of the identity security section as well. But again, they all relate to each other. It starts off with stealing your credentials. And I'm just going to explain what this attack is called. This scenario is called island hopping. So it's a strategy where bad actors compromise, let's say, a smaller organization or maybe a less secure organization. And they try to compromise maybe a larger affiliated organization. And that's what they're after. That's the end state. You might not be the end state, but you might be their entry point into that larger organization. And we see this a lot with nonprofits, by the way. Unfortunately, nonprofits don't have much money to spend on security. They'd rather spend the money on the cause that they're trying to work towards. And hackers know that as well. We're all human. Hackers play on our emotions. They know how humans think, and they use that to their advantage. So in this case, the island hopping case, maybe nonprofits do get compromised, knowing that they are affiliated with a larger for-profit organization somehow, some way. And now, as an example, maybe it's a hospital. Unfortunately, it does happen, and it's happened many times before, but they want to steal funds from a hospital. So they attack that nonprofit that is affiliated with the hospital, and then through that nonprofit, they lead their way into the hospital. So it all starts off with an attacker, right? Bad actors always in the mix, somehow, some way. The first thing they do is they compromise that small entity. Let's just call it a nonprofit in this case. So they've sent a phishing email, they've compromised that nonprofit, and now they are impersonating, or they are within that user's mailbox, the nonprofit's mailbox. What they do is they send a phishing link. So adversary in the middle attack is just a regular phishing link that gets sent to the client or to the target. The target clicks on the link. It is followed and backed by an MFA prompt. So hackers will request the MFA prompt for you. You'll input that MFA on your device, and now the hacker not just has your credentials, but also has your session cookies. Now, your session cookies are really important in this case for hackers to have, because when you log into a browser and you authenticate, let's say, to your Outlook Online, if you want to go into your SharePoint or to your OneDrive or Teams Online, you don't want it to constantly ask you for your password every single time. That's why the session cookies are there. It's storing information about your account, about your login activity, and making sure that, all right, it's a successful login. Let me store those into my browser, into the session, and don't ask me for credentials again until the session is dead or gets killed. So if the hacker has these session cookies, they can steal them and put them into their own browser. And now they can start reading your emails. They can read your files. They add another MFA method on your behalf, so that way they remain persistent in your environment. That's when the business email compromise campaign starts. That's when they start sending emails internally. They start sending the emails externally, trying to compromise other internal users or other external users. And once that's successful, that eventually gets into a second stage, third stage, fourth stage, et cetera, until they achieve what they're trying to achieve. All right, so this is called the adversary in the middle, where they steal your session cookies. And this is called business email compromise, where they start sending either phishing emails or attempts to divert some sort of payment, impersonating some executive or some supplier. Now, the second scenario is going to be a financial fraud. And we see this happening, unfortunately, a lot, especially with law firms, actually any company that requests any type of service, but most recently a law firm, and I'll share that story with you in just a bit. Again, it starts off with an attacker. Any attacker needs to compromise somebody. In this case, it is the supplier. So they either compromise them through phishing, through dark web exposure, malware, password spreading, brute force attacks, any of the methods that we mentioned earlier. It starts off by compromising somebody. Now, in this case, the supplier does get compromised and their mailbox gets compromised. So the next stage the hacker does is called reconnaissance. They try to gather as much information as possible to plan their attack. In this case, because this is a financial fraud scenario, they look for emails related to invoices. They look for who approves invoices, who's the one that sends the transactions to the banks. Pretty much they're just monitoring. They don't attack just yet. They're gathering information to know what their next steps are. So if they know the CFO is the person that approves the invoices, maybe a part of their attack is to impersonate the CFO. If they know that user X is the person that on the accounting team that sends the financial records or the money, they might want to send them an email to say, hey, here's what's changed. Send me the money to this bank account, for example. Right? So they just remain dormant. They learn the process, the billing and payment process, and they wait until a legitimate transaction is ready to be paid. That's when the attack delivery stage happens. They hijack the email thread. So as the attacker, as the supplier, they create inbox tools to divert themselves so that nobody detects it. And on behalf of the supplier, they impersonate certain individuals within the company, and they create inbox rules to avoid the detection. With that comes the exploit and persistence. So they continue the hijacked email thread. So if there was an email thread about some sort of payment, right, they continue that thread. They impersonate the user that they've compromised. They use social engineering tactics. Again, I mentioned this before, we're all human. We all have certain ways that we react to certain scenarios, and they play on human emotions. Sense of urgency is another one. You have 3 hours to click on this link, or you have, 24 hours to pay this overdue invoice. Otherwise, there's going to be an increase, some sort of interest rate on the payment. So they play on the sense of urgency, so you act quickly without thinking, and then you eventually do what the hacker's requesting to do. And that's when they send the fake invoice with new bank details. So let's just say as a scenario, the supplier's been compromised, they're providing some sort of service. And now as the target, you as the organization as a target, you want to send that invoice to the attacker. The attacker sends the invoice to you, says, hey, sorry, I've changed my banking details. Here are my new banking details. Please make sure that you send them to this routing address. Right? The target doesn't ask any questions. All they do is they pay the money because it is coming from a legitimate trusted source, which is the supplier. But in this case, the supplier has been compromised. Now, what do hackers do after their email is compromised? First and foremost, they access your emails, the files stored in SharePoint and OneDrive, right? They have access to your account. Why not go through your stuff? They monitor your activities, your communication style, who approves invoices, so on and so forth. They send phishing emails from your account to internal and external accounts, trying to compromise them as well. And they also spread phishing links from your own OneDrive and SharePoint environment because it comes into the recipient's mailbox as a legitimate email from SharePoint, from OneDrive. It's not a random domain that sent you an account or sent you a link. They spread malware or ransomware to infect your machines, demand ransom to clean it up. And they also search for passwords stored in your emails, SharePoint, or OneDrive. So they just literally type in the word password in your email. If there's anything related to that, maybe they can compromise other accounts, or maybe through your SharePoint or OneDrive, you store your credentials in there, which we don't recommend, and that can lead into a further attack. All right, let's go through a quick demo. First and foremost, the demo that we're going to go through is called the adversary in the middle attack. Now, what we're going to be going through here is, let me just unhide my fishnet here. All right, so this is the link that I've created as a phishing link. And you can see here, it's login.microsoftofficeonline.com. But to the naked eye, if you don't pay close attention, you can see here for Microsoft, there's 2 T's. Right, so anybody can purchase domains out there that look quite similar to what they're trying to attack. Now, in this case, I'm going to plan on an attack against the user called Adele Vance. So I'm just going to go to this link here. So I copied the wrong one. All right, so I'm going to go to the link here. And you can see here the 2 T's in the URL as well. Everything else looks a legitimate Microsoft login page, except if you don't notice these 2 T's here, you can easily be fooled. So I'm going to log in as Adele. This is my demo tenant. I'm going to get Adele's credentials here, log in, and you can see Adele has MFA applied to their account. I got an MFA prompt on my phone, T3, right? And now I'm logged in to Adele's account. Now, the thing is, it's going to redirect me to the legitimate Microsoft login page. That's the redirect that I've created. If you go back to our tool here, you can see here's the username, Adele V. Here's the password. And the tokens, the session cookies were intercepted. So all a hacker needs to do is go to sessions. So this is sessions 10. Here's all the information that was captured. Here's the session cookies. Again, you can see here, I'm not logged into Adele Vance's account. You can go to portal.office.com. I'm not logged in. I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to delete all the cookies. I'm going to import the session cookies that I just stole. And I'm going to go to portal.office again. And now you can see it redirected me to Adele Vance's account. You can see here, this is the welcome page for Copilot. Here's Adele Vance's account, their picture, their emails, Outlook, OneDrive. So I can access Adele's environment. They provided me with MFA. All I needed as a hacker were these session tokens, the cookies. I pasted them in my browser, and now I'm so this is a method to bypass MFA, and now I can access Adele's mailbox. Right there it is, email, Outlook. It's going to open up. There you go. All right, now the next type of attack is a simple QR code phishing. So this email came in from admin, and again, the same domain. There's two T's there. To the naked eye, it might go unnoticed, but education goes a long way. Dear George, there's suspicious activities happening on your account. Somebody logged in from Russia. This is the date, the time zone. You have 12 hours before the QR code expires. Scan this QR code, change the password, enable 2FA, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if you act within 12 hours, your account will be locked out. So this is them playing on emotion, playing on sense of urgency. And why do they include a QR code? Because a lot of organizations have protection against links. QR codes, unfortunately, don't fall in that category. And a lot of people don't have protection on their mobile devices. So somebody just picks up the phone, scans the QR code, and now it's easy for hackers to steal your credentials just via QR code as well. And now they're able to access your email, right? Another type of attack is an invoice sent to your email, right? So somebody uploads some document within a OneDrive location. And if you have this, there it is. And this is just, hey, there's my updated invoice. What does that look like? Okay, not because it was shared with myself, ProServeIT. Now, this is a legitimate invoice that, unfortunately, an organization fell for. So they have their own logo in here, the invoice, all this information was relevant except the payment information. They changed the payment information to the hacker's payment information and sent this invoice. So they hijacked an email thread, put in this invoice, and they just updated the payment information. They purchased a domain fairly similar to the actual supplier's domain, and they just put a hyphen in between the two words. And unfortunately, the client did end up paying $78,000, and there was no way back from that. The hacker already took the money and ran with it. So they use legitimate services like OneDrive to send you the invoice and eventually impersonate whoever they're trying to impersonate, and you end up paying it because you don't have a proper process in place to mitigate the risk. Another one that I want to mention is past due invoices. So something that looks like this, just a simple PDF file. If I click this link, you can see that it's going to take me to bing.ca or bing.com. And this is on purpose because in the actual form, it says, click the link below. It expires in 12 hours. If the link does not work, scan the QR code. So they're forcing you to use the QR code because they know this link is not going to work. And there's a past due invoice. The accounting team is going to be on top of that. What did you not pay? How come we have a past due invoice? Let me scan the QR code, and now I have access to the credentials, and I have access to the finance team's mailboxes, which is extremely important. All right, realizing we only have about 6 minutes left, I'm just going to go through the last exercise here real quickly. Let's just say you've been compromised, and this is your mailbox. So what hackers do is they come in here and create an inbox rule. Obviously, this is not done manually. This is done automatically, but they usually name the rule like ... or just some random letters. The condition they create is any email coming to me, right? So in this case, it's the mod admin account. What do you want to do? First of all, I want you to move it to the conversation history folder because nobody ever sees that. I want you to mark it as read so I don't get notified. And then maybe I want you to automatically delete it after the fact. So this is the common rule that hackers do to not raise any suspicion on the user account. Another thing that they do is they create a forwarder to send emails to hacker@gmail.com. Right? So they forward all your emails to their email so that they can monitor what's going on. It's either done here or through the inbox rules as well. Right? So add a new rule. If I'm on the 2, I want you to forward the email to hacker@gmail.com. Right? So this is just part of their process in order to either maintain persistence, to keep reviewing what's going on within your environment, all the emails that are coming in and out. Maybe there's a specific subject line that they're looking for, invoice 1, 2, 3, 4, but at least they can maintain review of what's going on within your mailbox without having to log in anymore. Right? So how can we mitigate attacks with Microsoft technologies? First and foremost, MFA. The first step is MFA. So if hackers have your username and password, the first step that blocks them is MFA. Now, again, I showed you an adversary in the middle attack, which does bypass MFA. It is becoming more and more relevant in today's world. However, it just depends on the attackers. Some of them don't use that method, others do. So at least if you do have MFA in place, that is the first layer of defense. Exchange online protection, improving your email hygiene, spam filters, malware filters, etc. Defender for Office 365, safe links, safe attachments. Somebody clicks on the link, it gets scanned in real time. If you're getting attachments, before it reaches your mailbox, it gets scanned to make sure it's not malicious. Spoof protection, impersonating your domain, sending emails on behalf of your domain, which is SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. 0-hour auto purge. So something that hackers do is they send you an email with a phishing link, but they don't activate the link. It's a dead link until 10, 15 minutes later, because that way it bypasses your scans. And as that email lands in your mailbox, hackers weaponize the link after the fact. And then you rely on a technology called 0-hour auto purge, or ZAP, that deletes the email from your mailbox after it's been received. There's safety tips. So you get a little bar at the top of your email that says, hey, this is the first time this person's communicated with you. Even though you have been communicating back and forth around some sort of invoice, this is the first time this person's communicated with you. So just a heads up, be careful, look for signs of potential compromise from maybe supplier side. Don't safe list or whitelist. That just bypasses all the filters that you have in place, all the spam filters, all the phishing filters. It just bypasses everything and ends up in your inbox, which you do not want. You do not control the security of your partners, or your vendors, or your clients. That's why you do not whitelist or safe list. If something ends up in spam or junk or quarantine, there's a reason for it. Fix the root cause rather than adding it to a safe list or a whitelist. Disable consent to third-party applications. Pretty much something that hackers do as well is they register their own applications to send emails on your behalf outside of Outlook. So we only allow Outlook to be the application that you use and no other email application, because those can be vulnerable and those can be abused by hackers as well. And phishing and end user education. That goes a long way. End users are always the weakest link. You always want to find some way somehow to educate the users on how to do better. So for some recommendations, you want to implement a multi-layer defense strategy. So think of it as an onion, different layers of an onion. The first layer is your password. The second layer is MFA. The third layer might be Intune. The fourth layer might be DLP, right? So different layers throughout your environment to make sure that if they get past the one layer, they're going to get stuck on the second layer. They have to get past that. They get stuck behind the third, so on and so forth. Use CA policies to govern access to your environment for all the cloud applications that you have. Enroll your devices to Intune and require only Intune enrolled devices access. So in the case of the adversary in the middle attack, if that device was Intune enrolled, then hackers will not be able to get in. Even if they have your credentials, even if they steal your session cookies, they will not be able to log in because the device is not Intune enrolled that they're logging in from. You want to regularly review your policies and update them as per today's standards, today's threats and trends. Simulate phishing attacks so your users are well educated on the types of attacks that we see, and educate users is the most important step. All right. So for some offers, we are offering a threat landscape assessment. So it is a mini security assessment for your organization. If you're interested in this, please reach out to us at cloud@ProServeIT.com. Yunjin is going to be able to also put in some links in the chat window. I can easily take you to the different pages there to sign up. But if you forget those links, just send us an email to cloud@ProServeIT.com and mention this webinar, and we can provide you with this free assessment of your Microsoft 365 environment. We are also offering our email security foundation package for roughly $10,000 for SMBs. So implementing security technologies in your environment related to email to get you to up to a specific standard within your security maturity. So if you're interested around this as well, please reach out to us at cloud@ProServeIT.com or use the links that are being sent to you in the chat window there. Lastly, there are some Microsoft-funded security workshops. You can check your eligibility. You can either reach out to us so we can validate for you, or again, the links will be in the chat window for you to use. If you're interested in any of these security workshops that are funded by Microsoft, we can confirm that you're eligible for them, and then we can do them for free. You're not eligible for the free or the funded solutions by Microsoft. The prices are there. If you are interested in going through these security workshops, you just have to pay for the workshops instead. Thank you all for joining, and I wish you a great rest of the day.